I'm Will Reichelt, I'm the mayor. I have with me Rob Colson, the director of DPW, Allison Manuel, our planning director, Paul Connor, our chief of police, Trevor Wood, our deputy director, and Connor Knightley, our engineer, as well as Kate O'Brien and Carly Kamasi. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give a little overview of kind of why we're here, and then some of the department heads are going to talk about the process that led us here as well, kind of why we need a new yard, why we need a new police station, and kind of the process that led us to the police station going to where the yard is now and why we need a new spot for the yard. Then I'll address some kind of frequently asked questions I saw and then kind of open it up for questions. When we do questions, I just ask that you come up to the microphone here because we are recording it and there are people watching at home, and just say your name and address. And kind of limit your comments to 3 minutes so we don't have to be here all night. I mean, if we want to stay here all night, we can. But depending on how it goes, we can have another forum or we can have a conversation later in the council, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. So first of all, we started looking out for a new police station because the police station, we're probably one of the only communities in Massachusetts that still has a police station in their town hall. That moved here in the 70s when the old town hall was knocked down over on Park Street, and we moved here. Obviously, our community's changed a lot since the 70s, and we need a new police station. So we got a Mass Gaming Commission grant, and Allison will talk a little bit more about this after, to look for a new site for a police station. They ideally want something like 5 acres. As you know, living in West Springfield, it's great. We're the crossroads of New England. We have a great commercial tax base along Riverdale, but the community is generally built out. There's not a lot of fresh land. As we're seeing where subdivisions now are kind of tucking in wherever they can. Land is valuable here in West Springfield, and there's not a lot of it. We needed about 8 acres for a DPW yard. So that led us to look at a couple different spots. Highland Ave was one on Whitney, but it's too far out of town. We were looking at the site on Brush Hill that the diocese owns, much more expensive than this site here, centrally located in town. So came to this site where was originally rezoned for condos back in 2019. There was never a buyer that came forward, so we worked a purchase and sale with the owners of the property now, and that purchase and sale is dependent on funding by the council on their June 6th meeting. So this isn't a done deal. We haven't even hired a designer yet. We're just having a public forum now because I included the purchase of this property in the capital budget, which came out on April 1st, which again, will have a public hearing in June, and then a public hearing in May, then a council vote in June. If this site doesn't work out because we don't have funding, we'll have to go back to the drawing board and kind of look at those other sites. So again, this isn't a done deal. We're just having an open forum now to kind of hear your concerns, questions, comments. So you're hearing it from us instead of hearing it from Facebook, which isn't a good source of information. So with that, I'll turn it over to Trevor Wood, talk a little bit about the why we need a new yard. And just so you know, in the back, so on the side walls, there's the plot plan of what Western Growers is now. On the back table, there's pictures of our yard, and there's pictures of Long Meadows yard, which they're the newest that just recently built a new yard. And then Trevor.
Thanks, Connor. All right, so our yard, we're outgrowing our yard at the moment. Our property is literally falling apart. I think Rob found some blueprints today saying that the DPW started there roughly around 1939, but before that, it was a trolley barn. And the building actually from 1939 before that is still there, and we're using that as our current park shop, which we can't really put any cars or trucks or equipment in. We are, it's basically for mowers because the trucks cannot fit in there. So the other repair shop that we have, we updated that, I think around 2008, 2009. We started taking on the police and fire vehicles. We outgrew that shop already. The ladder truck can't go in there. We have a couple sewer trucks that do not fit in there, so the repair shop guys are out there working in the parking lot, in the weather, on not so flat ground. It's really not the safest thing in the world. Our trucks, they sit outside all year long. We don't have the space. In the wintertime, it's freezing cold. We have salt all over these trucks. The salt is literally eating these trucks apart. We don't have a proper wash bay. we have a proper wash bay, we could wash the trucks more and more, and maybe keep them longer, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years longer. We could keep them longer, it's saving us a lot of money. Right now, our salt shed is very undersized. We go through roughly 4,000 ton of salt a year. Right now, the salt shed holds about 250 to 300 ton. So the rest of it sits outside underneath a tarp from Home Depot that I have to change multiple times a year. The weather hits that, it gets frail, it gets ripped. We're losing salt, I don't know, by thousands of dollars of salt a year is going down the drain because the rain is just washing it away. We need the salt in the shed. All of our tools, we don't have enough room for the tools, so we have, I think, 4 or 5 Connex boxes that are really ugly right now, full of tools. So when we do have to work in the middle of the night on a, let's say water main break or a sewer break, we're running back to the yard to try to grab these tools in the dark. There's no power to them. There's no real break room for the guys. Right now we're eating in the garage where all the vehicles sit that we can fit in there. The bathrooms need updating. The locker rooms need updating. And this is the same with the water department yard. That building is, they vastly outgrew that building in every way, shape, or form. So that's why we need a new building at the moment. Basically, everything is falling apart. It's very old. It's almost 100 years old. There's cracks in every wall that you can see. The windows are out of shape. The heating and AC's falling apart on us. We've been trying to keep it up left and right, but it's hard. It's almost 100 years old, so it's really falling apart on us. So that's why we need one. And I just want to say, I did read some Facebook comments, and everybody's worried about noise and smells and all this other stuff. So we work Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3:30. We work out on the road in the fields. We don't work in the town yard all day long. So we basically come in at 7 a.m. We're out of the door by 7:30, 7:45. They come back for lunch, and then they're out of the door back from lunch. 3:30, we're done. Once in a great while, we have snow. We have, like I said, water main breaks, all that other stuff. We work overnight, but hopefully we design the building so nobody can hear us, nobody can see us. We don't have many complaints where we are right now. In fact, the people kind of like us because we're right there. The new yard will have a fence all the way around, well lit. It's very secure. Just a couple other, it's just really needed. And like Will said, we went around, we checked multiple spots, 3 or 4 spots all around town. And this one turned out to be the best. It's really centrally located. We will try to build it, where the trucks maybe go off of Morgan, or, we're going to try to build it to fit the best for this area. And like bad smells, we don't have bad smells. We have a property down the road where we keep sewer grit, our dirty dirt, our sweepings and stuff like that. That's not even on the property at all. We're going to keep this property as clean as we can. Right now, you can see all the pictures. The property's pretty beat up, but like I said, it's 90 years old, and we have tools and pipes and everything outside because we just don't have the area inside to keep it. And that's what we want. We want one big building so we could keep everything inside and everything lasts longer. Everybody's happy. Nobody can see anything. I feel like it's a win-win in my eyes, so.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm just going to tell you why we need a new police station. I look around, I see many faces here that come in for license to carry and things like that. Once you've been in our department, it's outdated, it's old. There's nothing like seeing it in person to know that we need a new station. But to touch on that, we don't have a women's locker room. We have more women officers now than we've ever had. We have one bathroom inside the department. On the first floor, it is a toilet in a room. There's no stalls, there's no nothing. Our cells are outdated by the state. We don't, to fix them, we'd have to take them all apart. It's just money that would be wasted. Our squad room is our roll call room, our dining room, our break room, our computer room, and where we put evidence on the same table. We've used the third floor for records, that we've taken over a room up there. Our license to carry records are all up there. We used to keep everything down in the basement until a flood came in the late 90s, early 2000, and that's all mildew down there now. And we've just outgrown it. It's old, and we're in desperate need of a new department. And anybody that comes in from, whether it be 911 or any other state agency comes in, is kind of, made a strong suggestion that we try to get a new department. We're overdue for one, and if you have any questions, my goal is, once this gets going and we get to build a new department, is to have tours so you know where your money's being spent and why it's being spent, because one tour through, you're going to understand. Thank you for your time.
Hi, everyone. I have been working with my colleagues here on the police station, the need for a new facility since about 2018. I applied for a gaming commission grant. Because we're a surrounding community to the MGM Casino in Springfield, we were eligible for certain money associated with that. So the Gaming Commission did give us the funds to study our space needs for a station and look at whether or not we could accomplish that here, or if in fact a new facility would be required. As part of that process, we had consultants that were interested in submitting a proposal to the town to do the work. They toured the police station, and jaws dropped. My own dropped. I had not seen it until that point, or I had not seen all of it, I should say. And it was pretty clear immediately that what's down there is not working. And the reality is that it's not big enough, and we don't have the space here in the immediate area to expand without taking away parking and things that we're trying to provide to support our businesses in the downtown. So anyways, we've selected a consultant and worked with them, and as part of that process, we identified a list of sites for them to consider as potential locations. Chief and I went through, I don't know, at least a dozen sites, just looking at what it would take to build a facility there, and most of them were privately owned. We'd have to buy it. We'd have to maybe even take it if the owner wasn't willing to sell, and that's, never our objective. So we really tried to focus on things that the town owned, and where we arrived was the DPW facility on Westfield Street. And it's not, it's a coincidence that the DPW is also really outgrown their space, and it's old, as they said. So it seems like a win-win for the police to be able to occupy that site, which is actually the right size for them, and then find a new site for the DPW. The good thing about the Westfield Street site for the police is it's centrally located. That's like the #1 most important factor to consider when you're citing a police station. So it works from that perspective as well. It would be easy for them to get in and out and get to various points in town. Right now, they kind of have to battle the Park Street lights and everything, and that would be less of an issue if they were able to move to the Westfield Street location. So we've looked at a lot of sites all over town, and this is what we think is the best combination of sites to meet the needs of both the police and the DPW.
Thank you, Allison. I'll touch on a few things and we'll open up for questions. So, as you heard, we do need 2 new facilities. We spent a lot of our time over the past, the middle school is 20 years old now, so 2 decades on schools. We're finishing Coburn across the street. We're going to have a community tour of that soon. It's a beautiful school. So a lot of time has been spent, and we're doing a little addition on Memorial soon too. A lot of our time and money has been spent on schools over the past 2 decades. As you walk out, if you want to pop in, you're headed and see the police station, you can see probably even from there that it needs to be repaired. The dispatch works right there. The dispatch is never supposed to work on kind of a front end area where people can just come in and talk to them. So these 2 facilities do need to be replaced. The kind of way it works, we need to find a new home for the DPW first before we do anything with the police station. So that's kind of why we're here before you now. We found this site. This site, again, physically works for us, being centrally located in town, having 2 access points, and at the same time being large enough to fit the DPW yard. They need about 8 acres. As we mentioned, it's much undersized now. As I was talking to a couple of residents, we buy trucks that are too small for the community because we don't have a repair garage big enough to actually repair them. So I know there's stormwater issues on Piper Cross. We don't always have the right equipment to be able to handle a lot of this stuff because, again, we can't store it and we can't fix it. So we need 2 new yards, and the way, now I can't, there's some questions that have been answered of where the access and everything's gonna be. We haven't hired a designer yet in this because I don't wanna spend the money if it isn't gonna work at all. So we're thinking about having another meeting, depending on how this meeting goes tonight, later in May. We can have a designer come on board before then to talk a little bit about where access points could be and what buffers would look like along the property lines, both the north, south, and east side. The west side, the east side is the cinemas. So it is, I know it is a partially residential area. It's bordered by the cinemas on the west side or the east side. There is a lot of traffic in the area now. I know just walking in the neighborhood, there's a ton of traffic that comes up Piper Cross. I know there's stormwater issues over there. Morgan has their own issues. Morgan needs probably some improvement down in Morgan and Pierce. But ideally, for the DPW yard, the way it's centrally located, it does work. And as you heard from Trevor, there isn't a lot of noise in the yard. Both our yards now abut residential neighborhoods. And, you know, talking about property values, I'm not a realtor or a appraiser. I can't really tell you what the overall effect would be. I know Long Meadow abuts condos on the backside of their DPW yard. They have a gorgeous facility, and that's kind of what we'd be aiming to build. But with that, as I mentioned, we'll open it up for questions, comments, concerns. We may not be able to answer everything tonight, but we are recording it. So if we can't answer it all, we got your emails, we'll get back to you. And if we do schedule another hearing, we'll get back to you with that as well. And folks online, if you want to just raise your hand if you want to make a comment, and Kate will man the Zoom. This is our first hybrid meeting. So if anything good comes from that, we can have hybrid meetings now and have more participation while you're at home. With that,
Mayor, I'm sorry, did you want me to give a little background on this property?
Oh, yeah.
Too? Yeah, so I should have mentioned before, this property came, came on our radar because it is being marketed for sale by the folks that own it right now. They came to me 3 years ago, probably interested in rezoning it for multifamily. They felt like the condos next door were well received in the town and were beautiful and thought, you know, something of the sort could be built on this property as well. So it did go through the rezoning process for multifamily. It is zoned multifamily. I know there was some discussion about it being zoned agricultural. It's not. It's zoned for multifamily. So they've been marketing it for that. I heard from the realtor about a year ago that they had not found a buyer that was interested in building condos. I can't speak for the property owners or the realtor in what interest they have received, but I've gotten calls, and the only things that people have been interested in building there have been multifamily, like 3-family homes I got a call about, and I've gotten quite a few calls from people that want to grow marijuana, but that's not currently allowed. So it's still for sale. We're not forcing anybody out. I think that's important to make clear.
we're not taking the property.
We're not taking the property. They're voluntarily winding down their operations. So just want to put that out there.
Thank you. Questions? Comments? Yeah, just come up to the microphone. Nate, can you just push the...
There we go. My name is Nathan Arnold. I live at 196 Morgan Road. Been a 40-year resident of that property. And if you look at this site plan over here, according to the property map for Western Growers, this proposal would turn my driveway into a four-way intersection for DPW trucks, unless there is more property to be added on to this situation. But that's neither here nor there right now. My first question is, if the current site on Westfield Street is not good enough for the DPW, if the DPW has outgrown that site, it's undersized, whole 9 yards, what makes it good enough for a police station? And my second question is, as a follow-up to that, if this whole thing goes through, if the DPW becomes my across-the-street neighbor with light pollution, Trevor, you said your site will be well-lit, where that's dark right now at night, so now we'll have light pollution in our neighborhood. If the DPW moves over there and police move to Westfield Street, what happens to the Water Division's yard on Smyrna and Piper? What's going to happen with that property? So, anyone?
So I can answer the first question about the Westfield Street location with regards. Sure. So the first question was about why the Westfield Street DPW yard would be suitable for a police station. The difference between a DPW facility and a police station is that the police have offices and interview rooms and so on and so forth that can be built on multiple levels. So they're able to build up, which was how they're able to accommodate more square footage of actual usable space compared to a DPW facility, which really needs overhead doors, to be able to drive in and so on. And much more equipment, honestly, than the police have, although the police do have a good amount of equipment as well. The idea with the Westfield Street location was also that we'd be able to have a basement facility for records and whatever equipment is needed, if that is in fact needed. So the site was more than big enough. I mean, a bigger site would even be better. It's always better to have the opportunity to keep growing, but as far as size needs, it's more than adequate for police. So I think there were some questions about the light pollution and.
Not the light pollution. What happens to the Smyrna Street property if DPW, whatever you call this division on Westfield Street, and Water Division combine to this? What happens to Smyrna Street?
Smyrna Street doesn't have as solid as a plan as Westfield Street. It'd probably be turned over to Park and Rec because they have the memorial pool right there.
Yep.
So, I mean, ideally, long-term, what we'd love to do is bring back hockey on the other side of the res. The work we did 2 years ago probably and finished this year with the outflows allow us to raise and lower which Trevor's been working on, raise and lower the level of that pond to deal with some of the conservation issues we have around all the weeds and stuff that are in there. Ideally, we'd like to turn that back over and to have hockey on that side, skating on the other, and have a larger facility there for that.
Okay, all right, well, I have more questions than I have answers, but I'm going to open it up to my neighbors who I'm sure have other questions.
Thank you.
Do I have to press something here?
If it's still green, you're good. It looks still green.
Hi, my name's Bill Sapanic, live at 5 Shady Brook, Wind Path. New resident, 2.5 years to West Springfield, love it. Couple of questions, and I don't think anybody's here to dispute the need for a city yard. I visited the city yard last Friday and talked to some gentlemen who worked there and saw the condition. I've been a visitor in the police station, thank you very much. And I can totally agree that, that's sorely needed also. So I can understand why you're playing dominoes and moving things around. I can also agree that the Westfield Street site's probably a great spot for the police stations from a central point of view. However, from our neighborhood, I'm hearing you say you've looked at Brush Hill, you've looked at Whitney, on the outskirts, and to me, a DPW could be anywhere. And that you cited cost as being a major factor, and cost is always a factor. I'm a finance budget guy for Bay State Health, so I deal with that every single day. But, this is really a much heavier residential area than what I see at the DPW, where Westfield Street is primarily commercial with residences in the past, in the back, which is relatively removed from the existing operation. So nobody's arguing, the conditions of these buildings and the actual need. I mean, we could talk all night about 20 years ago, why were they let to get to this condition? And, you know, money's always a limiting factor, so we're not going to get anywhere with that. But I'd really like to voice concerns that the fine folks that showed up tonight are very concerned about their property values. They're concerned about the traffic, the safety of the kids on Piper Cross Road, the increased traffic on Morgan. You know, I'm hearing light for the first time. You know, we're the third condo in that abuts the nursery, you know, today. And I'm hearing a berm and this and that. Beautiful pictures taken in the middle of the summer when all the tree cover's out. But when the trees are down, leaves are down, you know what we see. And I'd much rather look at a nursery than I would, you know, a public station. Although I will say, you know, I'm impressed with, you know, the rendering and whatnot. But I'm strongly going to advocate that you need to look for another site. You know, I don't know, and Will, you did mention to me when we got here, what's going to come in there if you don't go there? Kind of like, well, what's the lesser of two evils? You know, right now, I'd like you to explore the other sites and let's figure out what's going to happen from there. But, you know, a lot of people are very upset. And also, the last thing I'm going to say, I didn't ask a lot of questions. I just got a lot to say. People tell me I yap too much, but
That's what we're here for.
I'm kind of almost disappointed when I ask, well, what's the process of approval? And it sounds like it's going to be a city councilor's vote along with the mayor. And that, you know.
I don't get a vote.
Okay, so you don't
Just the
vote.
council.
So there's 9 city council members. So really, it's you know, of the 9 city council members representing, I think there's 5 at large, 4 representing the districts. You know, it's going to be, you know, majority wins, I'm sure. So we're probably the minority living in that area, whereas other people may not be that concerned or that compelled to voice their concern, as long as it's not in their backyard. You know, I'll leave with this, and no dig against you. My wife asked you, you know, will you buy our condo and will you live there? And the answer was, I can't afford it, which I find that hard to believe. But two, as
Can't even afford a membership at the club.
yeah, there we go. Okay, so I guess with that, you know, we definitely will participate in all the meetings and whatnot, and hopefully it'll be an amicable solution for everyone. You'll get a new city yard, you'll get a new police station, and we won't have to deal with it in our area.
And I will just say, in defense of the, I will say that the council is very responsive to individuals and their constituents. So if there is strong opposition, I don't see them voting against you guys.
Yeah, I reached out to Dan today, and he said we would connect, and he said that he didn't think it was the best idea, but that we would connect, and it's got to play out.
Okay.
Hi, I'm John Donnell, and I live at 35 Hickory Hill. My question is rhetorical, but why build the DPW adjacent to luxury condos and a country club? And in the letter that His Honor sent to the abutters, you mentioned that other properties have been explored, but they're too small. I don't know how well they've been explored. There has to be rail yards that owners would be very happy to get rid of. And if they're not big enough, you've got a powerful tool called eminent domain, and you can make them bigger. And I object to the DPW, with all due respect, Trevor. I'd rather have the police department, because the police would have a shorter distance to travel when they respond to my alarms. So I hope you will all reconsider this and make a better decision relative to the location of DPW. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We're going to go to Zoom and see how it works.
Okay, so I have Silverleaf Enterprises LLC. You're going to have to unmute yourself, and you should be able to speak.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, my name is Brad Wright, and I live in the Winpat condominiums, and I am also opposed to the project. In the presentation, I heard win-win, i.e. win for the DPW, win for the police department, but I didn't hear win, win, win for the public that exists around the community. And I do have concerns in regard to noise and light and property values and also traffic. We've got a high school a quarter mile away with a lot of students traveling the road, and slow-moving vehicles entering and exiting this facility can cause a significant traffic hazard. And my fear is that for that reason alone, somebody could be seriously injured or killed, because there's a lot of traffic, a lot of fast-moving vehicles, whether we like it or not. And there's a lot of reasons that this is not the right location. If you look at it on the face of it, the DPW belongs in an industrial setting where there are not neighbors and the public who will be hurt in many ways by the presence of that facility. And I would agree with the person who spoke before me that they should be looking at their second and third and fourth choices a lot in a lot better way to see if those are better alternatives for the win-win-win that we all want. Thank you.
Okay, we have H. Murphy on Zoom up next.
Hi, so I actually don't live in West Springfield. I'm from the Reminder. My name's Hannah Murphy. I think I missed this because I couldn't hear this meeting for the first 15 minutes, but I'm just curious on the pricing, like how much is it going to cost to do all this?
So land acquisition is 1.4 million. The estimated cost, so like building off of what Long Meadow spent, they spent 27 on theirs, 27 million on their yard. And the police station would be roughly 38 was our newest number. So I'm a lawyer, not a mathematician. I mean, I would say like 40 million all in for everything.
Thank
I'm
you.
not 40 million, 70 million, like I told you. I don't have the CFO here, so 70 million all in, about. Yeah, so I was the only senior that had to take my pre-cal exam. So, but the way, so just tax-wise, the way things, so whether it goes here or not, we do need to do these things. So how the debt will roll off, we're at our highest point this year. So as projects finish, they'll roll off over the next 15 years. These projects won't happen like that. Regardless of whether it went here or somewhere else, it's going to take some time. So that new debt would not roll on for 5+ years, probably closer to 10. So as that debt's rolling off, the new debt would roll on, and it would stabilize what we're paying for debt service over the next 20, 30 years.
My name is Sue Walsh, and I live at 2 Hickory Hill in the condos. With the costs that you're mentioning, and our property values are going to decrease tremendously as a result of the DPW going right around the corner, I would assume that our taxes are going to go down. So since ours are going down, I'd like to know how we're going to pay for this, because you'll have less money in the coffer. I think our area where we live, I think is a very high percentage of the town taxes that you receive. This is going to really hurt the neighbors. This is a residential area, and as people have said, we've got school buses. I see the school buses stop and pick up the children across the street. Their parents are out there waiting for the bus to come. This is an area where we have a lot of elderly. There's people with a lot of walkers. Also, as far as the traffic on Piper Road, I don't think anybody realizes, nobody sees the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, because I try to cross over so I can take a walk down Piper Road, and I'm taking my life in my hands. There's people, 40 is the slowest. I have 55, easy. So I just want to bring up the taxes and what are we going to get out of it, except for lower tax values. And we bought this in a nice, quiet area. We love looking out on the quiet of the golf course. We don't need a commercial, large enterprise coming right around the corner. I agree with the other people. I think there are other places in town that can either hold the police station or the DPW. And I agree that you both need new things. Now, I don't know, if you're looking for 8 acres and you're already on 8 acres, why can't you, you're gonna have to level all that stuff to put a new police department in. Why don't you just level all that and build the kind of buildings that the DPW needs? And find someplace else that maybe might suit the police department? Just my thoughts.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Don Quinn. I live at the fine condos over at Windpath. Safety is going to be a big issue in this whole deal. If the present conditions of the safety factor going down Piper Crossing, I was lucky enough to be hit by 2 cars there last year, and the police came to my rescue. And that was last year, just like when Susan was talking going down Piper Road. If the traffic's going to be if that's the entrance where Western Growers is, I mean, I had never even saw it coming. But the traffic is going to be, and safety is a major league factor. And best of luck to having the police department get their wish and the DPW get their wish. But Piper Crossing and Morgan Road right now is a death trap. And I was almost a victim. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bellamy Schmidt. I live at 10 Windpath East, and I'm on the board of the Windpath condominiums. The question I have is, what is the problem you're trying to solve? It's been presented to us, the problem is that the DPW doesn't have enough space. And yet everything we heard about the DPW was about the inadequacy of its buildings, not about lack of space. So my conclusion is, as Sue said just a few minutes ago, the DPW can solve its own problems by building new buildings on its existing either 8 or 10 acres, I'm not sure how many.
So there isn't enough space where they are now. That's the other issue.
Okay, then we'll move on to the police department, which does have a problem, which we all recognize, but they don't need as much space as 10 acres. I think you said they actually need no more than 5, because they can go up as we heard. But there may be other plots that you can consider that are smaller somewhere in downtown if you use a little creativity. In terms of creativity for the DPW, I took a drive today and I found a number of places on Piper Road that might, or near Piper Road, some on, some near, that might be suitable for the DPW. Starting with the end of one interstate drive that has a dead parking lot and lots of available land next to it. But then you can go down Piper Road, there's a farm there that, do we really need to have a farm there? Maybe you could buy those at the farmer out, et cetera. So I think you need to look at exactly what the problem is you're trying to solve and solve each problem separately.
Thank you. Oh, well, let's let him go. Sure.
I'll just very quickly. Peter Pallenbaum, I own property at 718 Piper Road. If the total cost of the land acquisition is $1.4 million and the total cost of the project is $70 million, if you have to spend a little more on the land to keep it away from a residential area and to place it in a different location that's more commercial or more isolated, it's an insignificant amount given the total cost of the project as a percentage of the $70 million. If you have to spend $1.6 million or $1.8 million instead of $1.4 million, it's really insignificant as a portion of the $70 million total project cost. That's all I have.
My name is Randy Laughlin. I live at 2 Windpath West. I'm president of the board of the Windpath Condominium Association. And so I'm speaking for myself as a resident and for the board. We've engaged an attorney by the name of Jim Martin from Springfield to help us represent us. The board is opposed to this project for safety, traffic, light pollution, noise. Why you would build take a residential area and put a commercial DPW yard in it, as you look at how coming up Morgan now, that the street is changing with Taco Bell and the bank and just continuing, to lose the residential feel of the town of West Springfield. Makes no sense to me, and we plan to push back hard and do what we can to stop this, because we feel the values, just that side of Windpath, we have about $400,000 in taxes, and easily you're going to lose 10%. There are people there, Bill, who you visited with, Will, is, 3 houses down from the end. The people at the end of Shady Brook, one Shady Brook would be right up against it. And as we said earlier, I don't care what type of screen that you put there for shrubbery, it's still going to be an issue. And you say you work, 7 to 3. It snows at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you have to refill the trucks. You're out there loading up, trucks beeping, backing up, lights on. It just doesn't make any sense. It should be down off Union in a commercial area where there are trucks now and activity, but not in the residential area. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. We got one more on Zoom. Do you?
William Fennell, I'm going to unmute you.
Are we all set?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I also want to add my name to the list of people that are part of the Windpath condominiums. I live at 8 Shady Brook, probably no more than 150, 200 feet from the edge of the proposed DPW site. I also served on the board of Public Safety Commission for a couple of decades. I'm well aware of the need for a new police station. It's without question that it is a facility that needs to be replaced. I also would like to adopt all the comments of all the speakers so far. My question really is directed to the mayor and the committee members, is related to the process that we've utilized here. And what I would suggest might make sense for a community would be to have a site selection committee that would be composed of residents as well as town officials who could work collaboratively to get a DPW facility and a police station in a place, in a location that's safe, secure, and keeps the value of what we have in the residential areas. So it's a process question I have for the mayor. Would you entertain the possibility of a site selection committee that would involve some of the residents who are going to be materially impacted?
Bill, if you're volunteering, I will.
I certainly would.
We can do that. Anyone else? Oh, she was coming up next now. And then you can come up.
Good evening, guys. My family owns 207 Morgan Road. We are actually probably the largest piece of property that abuts Western growers. Our question is, we have a business that runs out of there for the last 15 years. And we've been told since the rezoning that we have to move once the greenhouse sells, because we will not have access to our business to be able to get in and out. We use Western growers' driveways to come in and out to run our business where we have it. So our question is, are we going to be affected by this? So are we going to be able to keep our business operating out of there and be able to work something out that we can use the entrances to use our trucks in and out of there?
What kind of business is it?
We have a trucking business. So we have triaxles and dump trucks that same operation. We've been there for 15 years. We move once in the morning, we come home once in the evening, and we go out for snow plowing.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that, so we can talk after.
We've never had any complaints. No one's ever complained about our trucks. Traffic, guys, traffic is horrible no matter what. DPW going there is not going to change traffic. Maybe it's going to help slow everyone down with the trucks coming in and out. That is not, school buses stop there. I went to school all my life here on that busy road. I got picked up there. It's worse now. It's not going to be the DPW. It's called Riverdale. Has nothing to do. All the traffic and everything's from Riverdale, guys. And trucks are actually gonna help it. Our roads are gonna be salted a lot better than anybody else in the whole town. And we're gonna have our streets plowed a lot better. We're gonna have our sidewalks done because they're gonna look at it every single day. The police department absolutely needs a new facility. No one's gonna deny that. I was on the department 20 years ago and there wasn't even a single female restroom to use. We had to go into the other corridor to use a restroom. We had no lockers, we had nothing. That was 20 years ago, and it's still not updated. So they need one. DPW can't run on 3 acres, but, our concern is are we gonna be displaced as well? Because that's our business, that's what we live on there. We've been there 50 years, we have great neighbors, everyone's been great. We've never had any complaints. All of our neighbors, I think, been together for 50 years. Besides, the condos, but they don't affect us. We've all been commercial zone. If Western Growers put up a building today to maximize their building and put a retail facility there, they would have that option. There's your commercial land. So they could bring on that as well because he wants to retire, but, if it's not gonna work, maybe he'll just go bigger and make it bigger, and he could put commercial buildings back there. There's just so much more, but I think town is overgrown. We need, the DPW to be right there to be able to access everything, have the property. 3 acres it's not enough to store all that. Everybody, but we just want to make sure that everyone's going to work with everyone and everyone's going to be happy because the neighbors have been great. We've all been there for so long. Everyone's been good. We just want to keep it that way. So that's what our concern is. And we own the biggest piece of land on Western Growers. Western Growers uses our property technically right now. So we've 50 years of it. So we have the most invested out of Morgan Roadside with Barbara because she's in our backyard as well. So, so we're going to be the ones that who, with the entrance and wind path, but they'll put up some hopefully barriers to do that. So that's what our concerns are.
Thank you.
My name is Joyce Corbett, and I live at 499 Piper Speedway. Hello, Chief. As we all know, Piper Road is out of control. It's a madhouse. It's insanity. Piper Cross, this little tiny road, the amount of traffic that goes through there daily, hourly, by minute, you're going to have DPW trucks backed up on Piper Cross, idling with diesel, for how long before they can take a turn on a Piper Road? I know, I sit there. I sit there every day because I take Piper Cross every day, and the burden these residents have on Piper Cross is inexcusable, that nothing has been done about this. We, the residents of Piper Cross, the residents of Piper Road, sat and we fought this town for 2 years to get our speed under control. And you know what they did? They said, we're going to raise the speed limit. We're not going to get it under control. We're going to raise the speed limit. And that's what they did. They went from 30 to 40 miles an hour. They didn't care. They do not care about the quality of life in District 4. This is where they put all the over 55 condos. They're going to put you say DPW yard's going to be centrally located? No, where are those trucks going to go? They're going down Piper Road. There's going to be convoys every day, in and out, back and forth, going on Piper Road and Piper Cross. We all know they're not going to go down Route 5. Where's the faster road? It's Piper Speedway. It's faster on Piper Speedway than Route 5, which is a highway. We all know that. And no, whoever said 45, 50, that's being generous. Very generous. I can tell by the sound how fast they're going there. It is out of control. It's been out of control. And you want to now add more trucks to this out of control situation? I give you a challenge. Get Piper Speedway under control. Get these poor residents of Piper Cross quality of life. We deserve quality of life, and we don't have it here in this corner of West Springfield. There is just no quality of life. I dare you to come and sit on our front lawns. We don't talk to our neighbors on the front lawn. You can't hear. You have trucks. I won't even name the companies. 18-wheelers doing 60 miles an hour down that road. And when they did the study, the average speed was 47. Average, that means they're doing 57 on one end and 37. Nobody's near the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. Nobody. So I'm asking, and that's the other thing, when we took this before the city council, this is how beautiful they are in this town. The chair of the Traffic and Safety Committee voted against his own proposal because he figured at the last moment he didn't have all the votes he needed. That's how they stuck it to us. So I went to Mass Highway, and I overruled them all. Mass Highway said, no, it's not going to 40 miles an hour. We're going to 35. And I thought that was a beautiful compromise. So I'm hoping, oh, and the other thing, too, light pollution. Look at the high school. It's lit up like a Christmas tree. Talk about light pollution. That's my backyard. Nobody cares about light pollution, people. Nobody. You're going to be lit up like a Christmas tree like we are that surround the high school. The other thing about this town, I can go on and on. When they built the high school, we had 5 public meetings. Not one of 9 city councilors bothered to show up to hear what the residents had to say. Not one of 9 for 5 public meetings. How many city councilors here tonight? How many city councilors? Is there a city councilor in this room who cares about the residents of Piper and Piper Cross? No. Is there a show of hand by any city? What district? 2. Thank you. I appreciate you being here and caring about our needs. There are 2 on the Zoom as well. There's what? There's 3 on the Zoom. Well, they should be here. I'm sorry. They should be here in person so they can listen to us.
And I just want to, so we're going to wrap it up. I wasn't here when the high school was built.
And he was not here, and the chief of police was not here either.
But I understand where you're coming from.
And a lot of the city councilors weren't here either.
Yeah.
So I'm
but the
saying
speed study is a good concern, and it's why a lot of times people ask why we don't have speed limits on like Dewey or Amostown. Because as you know, the way Mass DOT sets up speed limits is you got to do a speed study. And when they don't say like, hey, slow it or one down, we'll do the study, they take it as it is, and they take the average. And so the concern is we know we have issues on Dewey. We are working with Connor. Is working on some stuff with, we're going to redo the intersection across the crosswalk on Monastery and Piper and do bump outs with flashers, rapid flashers, and add, I think we talked about this, how on some schools have like the flashers that say school's in session and you got to go slower.
I've heard all of this.
Piper
this
doesn't.
was years ago. I'm still hearing this.
We talked a couple of months ago.
I want to see something.
Well,
I want to see the
I know.
traffic slow down.
Yeah,
I want to see the
I can't
traffic
work
on
that
Piper
fast.
Cross reroute it one way. Something needs to be done about this. It's so dangerous. It is so dangerous on Piper Cross and Piper Speedway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we asked for crosswalks down the other end of Piper. We didn't get them.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't have them. We have light pollution. We have noise pollution, tractor trailers, nonstop traffic. Yes, you're going to have diesels idling on Piper Cross with all that fumes. I fought for Piper Cross the last time. And I'm like, please don't invite me back here. Please. And if you don't understand me, it's because I left all my R's in Boston.
But thank you.
I still say Piper, all right? Thank you. I hope, I don't want to hear things. I want to see results. I want to see the quality of life come to our neighborhood. We deserve quality of life. And as far as centrally located, no, the DPW yard would not be centrally located. It's in District 4, so they would have to go to District 1, District 2, District 3. How do they get there? They have to go through District 4. It's not centrally located at all, unless you take Route 5. There's another challenge. Stay off Piper Road. Go up, go where all the commercial vehicles belong. Go up Riverdale.
I agree. Anyone else want to follow Joyce?
Hello, can you hear me? I'm Mary Dorenzi, and I live 31 Shady Brook in the condos. Agree with everything that we've been saying. A couple of perspectives I'd like to add. I don't think we're taking into account, I know it's residential, but the demographic of the condos is highly senior citizens. We have a lot of elderly people there, people on Social Security, fixed income, so on and so forth. As most people know, your home is a very big part of your portfolio, And for us to be faced with, at this stage in our life, having that possibly slashed, who knows, in half, I don't know. So that's something to think about. Also, our quality of life, peaceful enjoy when you're having, like you said, a 2 o'clock in the morning snowstorm, beep, 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 bang, 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 we're all up, and that's going to happen. And looking at those pictures, that's a pretty tight boundary to go. I've been digging around online, and I did find a lot of properties that the town does own, and just wondering, maybe this will be a different conversation. Those maybe can be repurposed. There's a lot of open areas. I know things are, perhaps conservation rather, zoned, but maybe look at those. And then the other thing was abutters. I pulled down the abutment list for the existing property, and there's only 6 pages. There's 10 pages over here, and so we have a lot more people that we're going to be either, causing property value issues or lack of enjoyment with the noise and so on. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Fred Berard. I live at 4 Shady Brook. My front door is 50 yards from the property line of the growers. My back porch, patio, faces with a baseball. You could easily hit the stop sign at Piper Cross and Piper Road. I'd just like to back up one of the things that was said. It was 32 years ago today, in 1990, that my wife Karen, who was on Zoom here a minute ago, moved in by sheer coincidence. I have seen, sitting out on the back porch, so many accidents at that corner. Some of it is just neglect, people not looking, but some of it is high speed. I've called the police station many times because when I can hear the crash in my living room. I'm that close. There is traffic problems there. I will not address a lot of the other things because I'd like to skip over one thing. The financing of this and what it's going to do to our property taxes, I realize you said things are a lot preliminary. I was expecting to get more answers here, but from what you said before, I guess I can't. You're projecting $70 million. I didn't understand what you meant about the debt being rolled over. We won't have to start paying it for 5 or 6 years. Could you explain that to me a minute?
Yeah, so this is our debt schedule. And you'll see we're in 2023 right here.
Okay.
So as these are heading down, this is when they get real low, this is when we'll be bringing on more debt. So they would stay in this height here, so payments would stay similar, so it wouldn't impact taxes.
Wait a minute, I don't get it. When is the earliest you think you could start building one or both of these properties? Just ballpark. Obviously, I could hold it to you.
3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay. You're projecting it at 70 million right now, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
60. If the Fed keeps doing the idiotic things they're doing, it's going to be, and you can laugh.
It could, yeah.
They're debasing the
certainly could
currency
be
like
more,
crazy
yeah.
because we have idiots running it, but I'll stay away from that. This thing could be well over 110 or 120 million if we don't go into a hyperinflation. If that happens, I don't even have to go into it. How much is this going to affect? Is this going to be a bond issue? We're going to
Yes.
float a bond, a muni bond?
Yes. It'll be a bond issue just like we did for Coburn and the high school, all the same.
I honestly didn't even know we did that, but that's
Yeah.
all right.
All the big stuff we do bond
Okay,
issues for. yeah.
what, and I realize it's probably too, and this may be something you could bring up at the next meeting, look into it. How much is this going to increase our property taxes on a percentage basis, going out 4 or 5 years or whenever?
So ideally, the way we bring on the debt as we roll it off, it won't affect it all. That's how we did Coburn. As the middle school was winding off, we brought new debt on. So you'll see the same thing was happening before, and it brought it up again. So that's the plan, is that we don't want to negatively impact taxes there's only so much we can do, especially as you mentioned, the way everything's costing more. And we bid Coburn at the exact right time when the pandemic started and everyone was hungry for work.
Right.
And we skipped out on the steel shortages, so we didn't lose money with that. So we got a really good deal with Coburn. But we were bringing in at the same time as things were winding down. So there wasn't that up and down spike, so taxes don't go down and up.
Yeah, well, I'll just end it by saying I agree with most of the things people said here about the quality of life, the problems over there. I think our property values are going to go down dramatically if this happens. I don't care how pretty it is. my office was right next to where the new Long Meadow DPW is. It's gorgeous, I will give you that. I don't know how efficient it is. It looks like it must be because it's so huge, and Long Meadow is not, you know, Boston, so that's wonderful, but I think that you're going to be blown out of the way by prices, and it's going to be severely impacting our taxes, is my personal, by the time you get all this thing floated. But good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm not used to a microphone in front of me. All right, Sarah Belson, 40 Piper Cross. My concerns for my children. The neighborhood is aging out. I love my neighbors. They are like the grandparents to my kids. We moved in 8 years ago. And there's families moving in onto Piper Cross. And it's nice to see the revitalization of those peoples moving into the neighborhood. And my kids were the youngest ones at the time. Now there's 2-3 houses down. There's a family with 4 children in it. Down at the other end, there's a family with children in it. And so children are moving into Piper Cross, and it's nice to see. And my concern is the safety of my kids. We are directly across from the Western Mass Growers, and Paul and Sandy, who are there now, have been phenomenal. They're like part of the family because they've helped get the kids off the bus when we've been in a pinch. They let us off hours to ride the kids' bikes in their driveway because it's not safe for my kids to ride on Piper Cross going to Piper. And they've been phenomenal. And saying that the trucks, they go in and out 3 times a day, well, they leave at 7:30 to 7:45, and they come back at 3:30, which is prime time for school buses on that street. And my kids already are told that they have to walk to the end of Piper Cross. They won't pick them up at my doorstep or on my driveway in the middle of Piper Cross. So to have my kids cross Piper Cross to get to the sidewalk, to then walk the road down to either end, when you got the prime time of all these trucks coming and going, is a big concern for mine. My kids are in elementary school. It's not like they're going to middle school or high school. So that's a big concern of mine, in addition to everything else going on. I have a daughter with health issues that I want to make sure that we've been doing everything we can to prevent flare-ups for her. And so the quality of life there is a big one. So yeah, it's a concern. And it's something that this is a residential neighborhood that has a lot of houses. And it's not something that you would see if you go to any other neighborhood that sees tons of this many houses near a DPW yard that is yards away, like feet away. And it's right there. This is not why we moved into West Springfield. And unfortunately, if this continues, we may have to be moving out. So I hate to leave it. I love West Springfield. It is what it is, but my family comes first. And so I'd hate to have to do that.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Bo Schoberg, 10 Shady Brook. I appreciate you all taking the time to be with here today and listening to our concerns. I really appreciate that. I've heard a lot of legitimate, serious concerns, whether it be the market value decreasing, the tax dollars decreasing subsequently, the traffic. I've heard a lot of legitimate issues, and I've got an issue that you might not find it compelling. I personally do. I love West Springfield. Although I've moved in here about a year ago, my family has a business here. I'm a 3rd generation now resident of West Springfield, and I've grown up around this town pretty much my entire life. One of the biggest pet peeves I've sort of have, and I always complain about this to my parents, is when I'm crossing the bridges and I'm looking at this beautiful Connecticut riverfront property, I always say, how come the city planners back in the day and the local leaders never optimize this beautiful aesthetic value that is the Connecticut riverfront? Because it's, you've seen it, Bondi's Island, the water treatment facilities, it's all industrialized. And my parents would always give me the same answer. They say, well, Bo, even though it, might have been an error in hindsight, the decision was made many, many years ago, and the city planners and the city leaders, the town leaders, they don't really have the pull to make those decisions anymore because they're so integrated in our community. And now, unfortunately, I sort of find myself gripping the same thing where the property we're talking about, the proposed location, I know this was maybe brought up once, but it does abut what is, I believe, one of the oldest country clubs in American history, a true gem in our location, designed by a legendary golf architect. And I'm 25. I live in Shady Brook. I know it's an older community, but I plan on growing my family there. I plan on staying there a many number of years. So what happens with this plan is going to affect me and my family, whom I hope to raise. And I'm sort of wondering that when I raise my family and my children come up to me and they say, Dad, you know, why on earth did the town leaders and town planners put that eyesore right there? And I really hope I don't have the same answer that my parents had for me, is that although it may be an error in hindsight and retrospect, it was a decision done many years ago and there's nothing that can be done about it. So I really hope, I know we talked about, and I apologize, I'll be really short on time. I know we talked about the idea of maybe relocating the police station there. I understand they don't need that many acres, but I've heard so many concerns about increase in traffic. I believe, and Chief, you know a lot more about this than I, but I believe I saw a report this past summer about increase in crime on Piper Road. So I don't know, maybe, I say this in the most respectful way, maybe reconsider the plans of the community. And I know there are some legitimate issues, and maybe this isn't the most compelling, but I think optimizing and preserving the beautiful aesthetic value of our community is really important, at least to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else?
I'm at 207 Morgan Road. I'm in the backyard of Western Growers. I'm not sure about this project or not, but I do have to say something. All you people crying about traffic, if they build condos in there, there's gonna be a lot more traffic pulling out of that street, out of that property, than if the DPW yard was in there. And as far as trucks being smelly and dirty, diesel trucks have more strict regulations for pollution than cars. So, and I'm sure the wall that they're gonna put up is gonna suppress any sound that may come from that yard. So those are something to consider, not wanting the yard there and having maybe 100 cars pulling out of there to go to work in the morning and maybe 10 or 12 trucks. Just something to think about.
Anyone else? Anyone online?
Is there anyone on Zoom? Raise your hand if you'd like to speak, or you can press *9 if you're on the phone to raise your hand. I don't see any.
All right, seeing none, thank you all for coming out tonight. Like I said, this is,
I just want to ask, you had outlined some very high-level next steps.
yeah, I was going to get to that, Bill.
When we leave, we all understand what the
Yeah,
plan is.
so like I said, before Bill cut me off, new to West Side. There's no final decision to be made yet. Like I said, we do have a purchase and sale, but that's dependent on funding, dependent on a council vote in June. We have all your emails. I think everyone's signed up over there, so we'll put some more information out over the next couple of days to follow up from this meeting with the recording, so if you do want to watch it again. We'll tentatively schedule something for May 23rd at 6:30. If we do schedule something else out, you'll get a mailing and an email, and then I'll touch base with my counselors who were on the meeting, and Mike who's here, and we'll speak again before that meeting on the 23rd. But again, thank you all for coming out. I appreciate the civility, and I appreciate you all having a voice here in the town. Thank you.